Though green summer fade and winter draw near, my Lord, in your presence I live without fear. Through tempest, through storms, through turbulent tide, the touch of your hand is my strength and my guide. I ask for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only thee, your love and your joy. I ask for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only thee, your love and your joy. The dancers will pass, the singing must end. I welcome the darkness with you for my friend.
Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The Epistle of St. Paul to the Galatians contains this often quoted statement, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." In Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansa tells a story from the life of the Benares saint Nayaswami. A skeptic once determined to expose Trilanga as a charlatan. A large bucket of calcium-lined mixture used in whitewashing walls was placed before the Swami. "Master," the materialist said in mock reverence, "I have brought you some clabbered milk. Please drink it." Trilanga unhesitatingly drained to the last drop the container of burning lime. In a few minutes, the evildoer fell to the ground in agony. "Help, Swami, help," he cried. "I'm on fire. Forgive my wicked test." The great yogi broke his habitual silence. "Scoffer," he said, "you did not realize when you offered me poison that my life is one with your own. Except for my knowledge that God is present in my stomach, as in every atom of creation, the lime would have killed me. Now that you know the divine meaning of boomerang, never again play tricks on anyone." The well-purged sinner, healed by Trilanga's words, slunk feebly away. Yogananda goes on to say, "The reversal of pain was not due to any volition of the master, but came about through unerring application of the law of justice, which upholds creation's farthest swinging orb." Men of God realization like Trilanga allowed the divine law to operate instantaneously. They have banished forever all thwarting cross-currents of ego. Not by reason alone, but by self-realization are the ins and outs of destiny fully understood. Their web, though tied forever to the post of ego motivation, is too intricate to be perceived in a single thread. Only great masters can see it with clarity. It is visible to them in all its workings, not from within the tangle, but from above, in superconsciousness. As Sri Krishna said in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, "He who beholds inaction in action, and action in inaction, is wise among men. He is one with the Spirit. He has attained the true goal of action, perfect freedom." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Oh.
I was smiling during the meditation because we were celebrating all this new lighting. This is what you're seeing is only a fraction of the new lighting. And so, of course, this morning was probably the darkest Sunday outside that we've had till now. So you can see Divine Mother's sense of humor in all of it, that we made the big lights in here, and so she turned out the big light out there. And regarding her sense of humor, Nayaswami Haridas likes to joke. He said, Divine Mother has a good sense of humor. She's a funny lady. So, our topic this morning, the law of karma, and it's a question. Is it bondage or is it soul release? And so that's a question we'll explore for a little bit. But the reason why it's even a question is because often when we know about karma, there can be a temptation to think of karma, our past actions, even going into past lives, as something that binds us, as a heavy thing. What can I do? It's my karma, it's written on the head, and like an automaton, I have no choice but to go through life being bound by whatever was predicted, by, yes, my own actions or whatever, but still, sometimes that's an even worse thought. In other words, we're not cursed by an unforgiving God, we're cursed by our past mistakes from which there is no reprieve, no release. And as Master once said, he said, there is a saying famous in India, fate is supreme and it must take its course. He says, as the cow follows from the calf, the calf grows into the cow, neither education or power is of any consequence. And Master goes on to say, now that's a stupid statement. Sorry, a stupid statement. With Master, it's much bigger than that. He said, I am a child of God. And how can these things bind me? And he said at one point, why talk of karma and karma? I'm so tired of hearing Americans talk about karma. And he said India, the literal thing he said was India fell politically because of too much worrying or depending on karma. Of course, India is now rising up again. But this thought of being bound and helpless, what does it mean? Because on the other hand, we know of astrology that can sometimes predict events very accurately, and how can it be so accurate if indeed it isn't really, how can it be predictable, and yet how can we be free from it? If we're free from it, then it really can't bind us. But someone can look at some chart, or they can look at some thumbprint, or they can even just look with some inner eye and say, yes, this and this about you, and you say, how could you know? And sometimes it's very accurate. Swamiji had a reading from Agastya, and you've heard of Brigu readings too, I'm sure. And it said all kinds of things about him, and it was written thousands of years ago. How could it know? And it knew that his father's name was Ray, and his mother's name was Hertrude. Ray and Gertrude. And it's like this was written in ancient Sanskrit, transliterated to ancient Tamil, Gertrude. And that's why the reader said Hertrude, because of course the G and the H in Tamil. He didn't know. And so it was so clear. In fact, Swamiji said that even the shirt, the dress you put on this morning, could be predicted according to karma. And he said, and you can't even reach for it and then at the last minute grab another one. He said, even that's predicted. Master said only the saints really understand the true nature of free will. And so we won't get so deeply into free will at the moment. But we will get into how bound are we by our karma. Here is an example from Yoganandaji's own life. The astrologers told him that you will be married 3 times, being twice a widower. Your first 2 wives will die. And so you'll marry 3 times. And his brother said, see, written on the head. And so you might as well just give up all this thoughts of being a sannyasi and, get to it. And so he said, he was a little shaken by this, but then he meditated on it and said that, well, what he did actually was he took his horoscope and he burned it. And then he put the ashes, he said, in a conspicuous place, like you can imagine, like the center of the dinner table or something, with a note that said basically something like the bonds of karma can be burned with the fires of concentration, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And so what did happen was that his marriage was tried to be arranged 3 times, and the 2 women who he was to marry, which he didn't marry, but they ended up, both of them, dying prematurely, though not married to him. And then it was the 3rd wife that finally he said to his family, fine, I know, when he said, I won't get married, and they got so upset, he said, you're really just upset because you got cheated out of a feast. So I'll arrange, she can marry my cousin. And so then there it was. But he, with willpower, resisted where karma was trying to take him. And in fact, speaking of astrology, and it applies to karma too, Sri Yukteswar, Yoganandaji's guru, was also an astrologer. And he said that basically the study of astrology is man's response to planetary influences, or the study of planetary influences and man's response to them. In other words, it's kind of like the sun shining, and if you're fair-skinned out in the sun, your response will be to become pink, sunburned. And if you have darker skin, then you can stand in the sun longer without getting sunburned. Meaning, the sun's rays are just there, but it's our individual response to them. And he also said, and basically the probable results. Probable is the key word, not definite. It was probably the case that someone with Yoganandaji's chart, and perhaps someone born at the same exact moment as he was, would have very, very similar karma, according to, if astrology is right, and it's just based on, when you're born and all this stuff. But the astrological chart does not describe the soul. It only describes the karma. And you can say, well, are they sort of linked? And in a way, they are. But really, karma is not part of the soul. The soul is free and taintless and not bound in these ways. And so, in that case, with willpower, Yoganandaji resisted the temptation, resisted the forces, resisted really what it is momentum. Karma, in a way you can say, is momentum. Because of all the energy I've put out in the past, then that momentum, even if I want to change my mind, is still carrying me forward. Like, I want to run this way, and I want to run this way. Well, I'm still... Prasanna saved me, but otherwise you're just still going forward. You see, and so it takes a while to kind of turn directions that way. And so, that's what makes us perhaps feel bound, in the sense that this push is there. And yet, with willpower, with calmness, with balance, we can shift. If nothing else, we can shift our own attitude during the karma. And really, more than action, karma is generated by thought and by feeling. And so, we have to feel that these things we can become free from. Now, of course, if we started resisting every single karma this way and that way, it would become quite difficult, in the sense of, okay, I must be kinder, and then we work on being kind, but then we see that one person who we were kind to tricked us, so then, okay, I must be more perceptive, kind and perceptive. So we find ourselves being very perceptive, but then we realize when we're doing that, we're kind of analyzing people a lot, but not really feeling in a flow. Okay, so that I want to feel more intuitive too, and it just kind of stacks up until the poor brain just can't handle it anymore. And so to do this kind of work also takes forever. As one woman asked Swamiji in a conference once, when he was talking about, get free of all this, don't concentrate so much on particular goals, but concentrate on where you want to go, which is to God. Is to freedom, is to joy, not I want first this car and so on. And so this woman asked him afterwards during the questions and answer session, now, you're telling us that we should just not focus too much on specifics, but other teachers here are telling us that we should visualize the car that we want with the keys and the ignition and the deed to the car with our name written on it very specifically, and we should manifest what we desire. And so, that's not what you're saying. And Swamiji said, well, you can do that. And she said, okay. He said, but it'll take forever. And he said, because desires are endless. And so if we just focus on fulfilling our desires, it's true that to overcome a desire, you overcome it more easily by its fulfillment. That's a good thing to keep in mind. Some desires you can't afford to fulfill, or it's not healthy to fulfill, and so with those it's different. But, one person asked Swamiji, I have a desire for ice cream, and I'm trying to overcome it, and I'm meditating, and he said, for heaven's sake, just have the ice cream. Now why? Because ice cream isn't important, or because it doesn't matter, or whatever? Maybe. But also because once you eat the ice cream, then comes the stomach ache or the sinus problem, depending on how much of the ice cream you had. But then also comes I haven't really found samadhi through the ice cream. And then our desire for the ice cream lessens because having had it, it still didn't give us what we want. So it's okay with little desires, if they're too strong, to just get them out of the way. But keep in mind, is this really giving me the fulfillment I wanted? Swamiji said most of those fulfillments really come from, someone had ice cream and I didn't, and now I want it. And then it becomes a pinch. He said it's like taking a portion of your flesh and pinching it really hard. Ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. Venum, venum, venum. Ippo, ippo, ippo. And then finally, we get the ice cream, and it fulfills the desire, and then it's like releasing I feel so much better. But it's just releasing a pinch that we ourselves applied. So in that sense, yes, we feel better, but it doesn't get us anywhere further along than we were. Now, on a deeper level, though, how do we overcome these seeds of karma? This is hinted at in the Bible passage. As St. Paul, it says, God is not mocked. As a man soweth, so shall he reap. And what, of course, that means is whatever a man or a person plants in the ground, that's sowing. So that's also what he will harvest. That's also what will grow, and then the crop he will harvest. Now I might say, okay, that's sort of a nice metaphor, and people in those days were planting a lot of seeds and reaping a lot of wheat, and so it made sense to talk about sow and weep, and reap, not weep, although often it turns out to be the same. But there's a much more esoteric meaning to that, which is that when we have a desire, that creates a seed, literally. Not like a literal seed like an acorn or something, but a literal seed of karma. That desire, before it's fulfilled, is a seed. It represents a commitment of energy, a potential, saying, moving in this direction. And until that seed grows and becomes a full plant, in this case a karmic seed, comes into action. I want the ice cream, but I can't go right now because I have to finish this talk. So I'm sitting here with this desire, waiting. I don't want ice cream. Please don't give me ice cream after this. But
everyone in the audience wants ice cream.
What was the talk about? Ice cream. Yeah. Okay. So until this desire is fulfilled, it represents a commitment of energy, and then it grows into a plant, and then I harvest the results of it, and so on. And so this hints at a way to get through our karma more easily. That if in the seed stage of the karma, we can get rid of that seed, then we don't have to worry about it growing into an outer circumstance, and so on. And so how to get rid of that seed? One way is through introspection. To say, well, I really want this or that, or I feel frustrated that I didn't get that, and then to ask ourselves, why? What was it that I was hoping to gain through this particular acquisition, or more generally through this particular relationship or positive experience? Or what do I feel like I was denied because this promotion went to someone else, or because this desire, this person treated me badly, or whatever it is? And so if we can introspect, and if we can calmly assess that really the reason why I wanted this person not to talk to me that harshly is because when they do, it hurts, which of course is very understandable, but also it feels like I somehow am not receiving love from them when they talk to me harshly. And if I'm not receiving love from them, then maybe I'm not receiving love at all. And I really want love. I need love. And so if I don't get it from them, maybe I'm not getting it from anyone, or maybe I'm not getting it from anywhere. And that makes me feel alone. And then if we say, but first of all, God loves me all the time, if that's something we believe. It is true, but it is important that we feel it. And that love that even comes to me through this person is only God's love filtered through. My parents, for example, it's God who gave me the parents in the first place, or my children. The children, again, God brought us together. And so in all these human relationships, we're experiencing God's love filtered through a human level. And if we lift it back up to a divine level, then we realize that love is always there, even if this person is in a bad mood. And so that pinch gets released from our hearts. And so introspection is a way, and it's a helpful way. And though I'm going to talk about other ways, we don't want to lose introspection. In fact, introspection, another word for it is swadhyaya, self-study, study of one's self. And it's one of the niyamas of Patanjali. So if Patanjali bothered, he didn't make 9 yamas and niyamas, he made 10. And swadhyaya needed to be in there. So it's obviously a very important practice. And yet, we could spend 8 hours a day just on introspection and clearing out, and then still have to spend 8 hours more a day, times 365 times whatever. It takes a long time. In other words, it's helpful to introspect with those things that are strongly up at the present, and also those things that aren't seeming to go away. But you can't introspect forever. Because still, or put it this way, there's a faster way. Let me put it that way. And that is through meditation. Yoganandaji said every time we meditate, some karma is burned up. And sometimes people question that statement. In fact, a student questioned that statement in one of our classes and said, I was really upset when you said you burned up karma during meditation, because I said impossible, impossible, impossible. And then I realized that through a very sort of complicated reasoning that it might be possible in this sort of certain way. So I'm very glad. Thank you. You're welcome. And so what it is this seed. These seeds of karma get burned in the fires of concentration. That's actually the symbol behind this fire ceremony that we do in the morning on Sundays, but you can do any time, but is a symbol of that process. The seeds of rice are burned in the fire. And then if you take these burnt seeds and plant them in the ground and water them and add fertilizer, what happens? Nothing! Because their energy has been annihilated. It has been spent. It has been burned up. And in this case, that's good. We don't want those seeds to sprout. And so it's a great time saver. That's why in meditation you find you just start feeling better. Maybe not in the meditation itself always, but afterwards. And also over days, weeks, years of meditating, you just find yourself growing more and more and more. And why? And people say, well, there's stress hormones and they are being suppressed through meditation and it makes you more cheerful. And it's true, but that's not all that's happening. It's that these seeds are being burned and being released. So not only all these pinches are getting unpinched, But even more than that, now we're getting into really mystical waters, but in your spine, that's where these seeds actually are stored. The energy that flows through your spine the more energy you have in your spine, and I'm talking actually of the astral spine, not just the physical spine, then the more joy you feel, the more energy you have at your disposal, and so on. And these seeds are like filling the spine. And you say, now again, are these physical seeds? No, they're little trapped, you could think of them as little trapped whirlpools of energy that are trapping, like a whirlpool of water, that's trapping the water and not allowing it to flow. Again, it represents a commitment of energy. The stronger the commitment, the bigger the seed. And so if you say, do you want ice cream? Yeah. Oh, we don't have any. Okay, doesn't matter. Then it's a tiny little seed. Then you say, do you want ice cream? Yeah. We don't have any. What? Then it's a big seed. Okay? And so, therefore, as these seeds get released, so more energy can flow. And so, again, we have more at our disposal. Please stop laughing or I will continue to laugh. And we just are more grown spiritually. And let me explain what I mean by that in a moment. But so, although many techniques will work, Kriya Yoga, the technique of Kriya Yoga specifically, Master said is the airplane route to God. And one of the reasons why is because it roasts these seeds very efficiently, very intensely, and is how this spiritual progress is accelerated. He says spiritual progress can be accelerated through Kriya. And some people say, great, acceleration is what I want. Let's learn it. Some people say, but how is it possible? And what I've just described is how it's possible. These seeds of karma get roasted without having to go to the 52 ice cream shops in Chennai and taking a sample of each one and comparing. It takes a long time and a lot of stomach capacity. And this, you just sit and meditate and just say it's all fine. Sometimes you realize the desire is gone. Sometimes you don't. It's not that there's my desire for vada. Oh, there it goes. Okay, there's my desire for a new job. Oh, gone. It's not that you have to live through the release. You might not even know what's happening. So again, that's the power of Kriya. And yet, Yoganandaji said, every time you meditate, however you meditate, with Kriya, without Kriya, and so on. And so keep these things in mind as to what is happening for us when we meditate. Now, when I say we grow spiritually, we can start, as the more you do that though, we start to bump up against an obstacle. That, okay, I'm calmer now, I'm more cheerful, I'm more friendly, I'm less stressed, I'm less worried. All these things that used to bother me aren't bothering me. So of course I feel better. And also I'm finding myself more, that's peace in the sense that agitation is being released. But also I'm finding a more positive flow of energy too, that I'm kinder to people. As one man said, now that I'm meditating, when people approach my desk at the office, they are different. Before they would always kind of come up like this. And now they are friendly. He said, and I am friendly also. He said, it's changed me, I think. And so we find ourselves kinder. We find more miracles happening in our lives, and it's easy. That's the greatest joy about it. You meditate in the morning, the whole day flows. It just is effortless. And again, even if the meditation was actually that vada that went away, I want it still, and other things, and hong sa, and you find still the day goes better, and your heart feels more relaxed. But then what happens? I said there's sort of an obstacle we start to hit, which comes into getting rid of the ego. And there was a devotee who shared with me that when he really realized we have to get rid of the ego. Yes, we have to get rid of the ego. Why? Well, because that's what everybody says. So I'll say it too. We have to get rid of the ego. Krishna says it. That's why. But when he realized I have to get rid of the ego, he was terrified. He even felt like his whole body shake. It kind of hit him in meditation that if that ego was taken away, he would be gone, annihilated, erased. And that was a terrifying thought. Now, it's not true, because we aren't the ego, we're the soul. But that's philosophy. It's truth, but it's also only an intellectual understanding, or at least for him it was. So that thought of ego goes, I go, I'm nothing, I'm gone. I don't know if I actually want that. Can I be like just a little bit of ego left so I can still exist? Or can I be like a very shiny and special ego? I don't think I can get rid of it. And so inside there was building a deeper resistance to becoming free in meditation. I mean, in meditation he felt himself more and more starting to hold back. And even Swamiji said this, that in an early time in his life, when after learning Kriya, that he found himself afraid of deep peace. Now, is the soul afraid of deep peace? The soul, you can say, is made out of deep peace. It's the deep peace pours out of the soul from God. It's not the soul having that fear. It's the ego. Because the ego says, if I get too peaceful, then I'm gone. And so that resistance started to build. That this person was saying that I want to get free, but I'm also afraid of getting free. And then he meditated on this. It took years to go through, to even recognize that there was resistance. And it manifests in different ways. It may not be like, I'm meditating, but I don't want to be free yet. No. Although there was a saint who prayed like that. His name was Saint Augustine. And he's a very famous saint in Christianity and writing so many treatises on God and so on. 2 stories of Saint Augustine, and we'll diverge for a moment. He had a very wild life before becoming a saint. And without going into all the details, you can imagine it probably, and then add some more to that. And he would say, Divine Mother, and he would say, God, make me a saint, but not tonight. Interestingly, another story of St. Augustine after becoming a saint, but it's still it's been coming up recently in different things I've read. He was walking along the beach, and he had written these books on theology that made things very, very clear. And you can think of him as like a famous commentator on the Bhagavad Gita. I would say like Shankaracharya, and in a way it's true because they were both like saints, but I mean somehow with Shankara we feel he was almost an avatar, or was an avatar, so a little bit different. But still, in any case, without worrying about all that, he saw a little boy, St. Augustine saw, a little boy running, taking a little bucket, taking a little bit of ocean water, and running out onto the beach and emptying the bucket, and going back and forth and back and forth. And so he said to the little boy, what are you doing? He said, I'm emptying the ocean. And he said, do you really think you can empty this whole ocean just with that little bucket? And the boy said, well, do you really think you can empty the ocean of God's wisdom with your little mind? And he went, and then the boy disappeared. And so not only was it helpful for St. Augustine, but it's helpful for us. As it said in the reading, we can't grasp this with the mind, but we can grasp it. It's not unknowable, but it's unthinkable. We don't know it by thinking. We know it by experience. We know it because we know it. You only know anything from experience. We used to have that sort of, I don't know if it's a slogan, but a thing that we would say as teachers, especially science teachers. I was a science teacher for a while. And science teachers would say, tell me, and I forget. Like a mole of molecules is 6.02 times 10 to the 23, and or whatever. They said, show me, and I remember. That if you can draw a picture, or if you can have a model, or if you can do something, okay, yeah, that was the thing, and there was a funny little mole, and he had this thing and that thing. I always remember that silly picture, it helps me remember the fact. But then they said, have me experience. Give me an experience and I learn. And so that's all of why you have kids do these science experiments with their own fingers, with their own things, because then they see it happen. And then they learn. And of course, that's what God does to us. It's sort of like, God drops down all these different things for us to pick up and play with, and then we learn. Sometimes it, ouch. But it's also that we learn, so that we actually learn. So going back to this, it wasn't that in meditation this devotee was saying, I don't want freedom. But it was more just kind of like, it kind of turned into, he was saying, kind of just not a passiveness, but not putting any energy out of strongly desiring God. Just, I'm meditating, I'm doing my techniques, I'm feeling peace, but I'm not trying to dig any deeper. I'm not feeling a push. And desire is very important, because as Master said, desire directs energy. So remember that. The positive side of desire, especially spiritual desires, is it directs energy. It allows us to put energy out. In fact, Master defined willpower, which we were just talking about as the ingredient to resist the karmic effects. He said it's desire plus energy directed toward fulfillment. So if we have desire, yeah, I'd like to be more spiritual, but if we have no energy, then nothing happens. And if we have energy, which was this more the case in this devotee's point of view, we have energy, but no desire, then we just kind of... I had a friend who was a perfect renunciate. He didn't really have any attachment to money, and he did extremely well in his studies. We were graduate students together, but he didn't have any attachment to them, at least on an obvious level. I mean, he didn't get nervous and all this, and he was relaxed, but he was extremely brilliant, and he cared, but he was not attached to anything. And I said, you would make a perfect yogi. And he said, well, I like to watch old movies. Meaning, that's what he did. That was his passion, old movies, instead of practicing yoga. I mean, they're not mutually contradictory, but that's what he did. His mission was to watch old movies from America from the 1940s. So in other words, there wasn't actual desire. All the stage was set. But that desire wasn't there. And similarly, my father tried to convince me to go into business. And he said, you have all the skills I have, plus all the skills that your mother has, and combining those, you have everything you need. I said, except desire. Didn't go over very well. But I had desires for other things. And so in meditation, we can sometimes find ourselves... Again, you have to see which side of the spectrum you're on. For some people, it's like, no, we should be more detached. For others, it's no, put out more positive energy. I am worthy of God. I want God. I can have God. God, come to me now. I know you want to, and I want you to. Sometimes we get so good at saying I don't want, that we start saying I don't want God either. I'm detached. That's not the way to direct energy. So finally, this devotee said in meditation to the gurus, what am I resisting? And he had already had that realization that I'm resisting annihilation. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of just being erased, so that's why I'm resisting. But really, that's a fear of something that might happen. And intellectually, I know it's not going to happen. So tell me, what am I resisting? You're resisting God. Well, but what does that mean? I don't mean to be sacrilegious, but what does it actually mean to resist God? We don't necessarily know what it means. And so he prayed, what am I resisting? And the answer came, yourself. You're resisting yourself. Not you're fighting against yourself. Not that. That what you are growing towards is actually yourself. You are resisting becoming your full, complete self. Meaning, it's not something foreign. It's not something else than you. And really where you are right now is only at half capacity, you could say. And you're just resisting growing further to completely fill yourself out. In other words, it is so much your nature, it is you. It's not anything else. And so it will feel more natural. You will feel more complete, more fulfilled, more yourself, but your divine self. And we feel that, hints of that in meditation. And this is why it resonated for this man, because he said, in meditation I noticed that when you come to a deep, calm place, you don't, I'm sure you've had this experience, where you don't go, I'm so calm, this is so weird. I was calm in meditation, and it's very strange, and I didn't know what to do with it. No, when you feel that calmness in meditation, we say, this is who I am. This is who I was. I remember feeling this way when I was a child, or I remember feeling this way at different moments that happened upon me accidentally, or sort of miraculously, and suddenly I'm reconnecting with that. We can even feel taller, or we can feel broader or more expansive, but it feels natural. And so that was the point of this in meditation, becoming more natural, more yourself. And so remember that. I'm getting a little cue. There's something wrong with the handle of the harmonium there. Very, very subtle. I think I'm going to have to go check the harmonium handle now. So, if that doesn't work, then the cane comes out. Just thank you very much. So, okay. Well, in any case, remember, through willpower, through love, and through letting God's grace flow through you, opening to that, you move through all karma to God Himself.
and yet she